Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the City of Mesa Planning and Zoning Board public hearing for Wednesday, January 8th, 2020. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and as an introductory video mentioned, if you're here to speak about anything on the consent agenda, you need to complete a blue card and give it to one of our staff members right away, please, so that we can pull that item off the agenda. I did receive a card from Michael Schuerman for item 4C. Mr. Schuer, where are you? Oh, darn. I was just going to mention that that item has been tabled, so we're not going to be discussing it anyway. Are you with him? No. Okay. Well, we'll have Rebecca go. Maybe she can talk to him, so we won't hold it up. So, okay, it looks like we have all the blue cards. So, Board Member Crockett, could you please read the consent agenda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the consent agenda for the January 8, 2020 meeting of the City of Mesa Planning and Zoning Board. Agenda item 2A are the minutes from the December 11th, 2019 study session and regular hearing. Agenda item 3A is case ZON 19-00711 in District 4, 1956 East Southern Avenue, located at the northwest corner of Southern Avenue and Gilbert Road. It is a site plan review and special use permit. This request will allow for the development of a convenience store and associated fuel station. Agenda item 3B is case ZON 19-00792 in District 6 within the 1300 block of South Signal Butte Road and the 10,700 block of East Hampton Avenue, located south of Southern Avenue on the west side of Signal Butte Road. It is a site plan review. This request will allow for the development of a restaurant with a drive-through. Agenda item 3C is case ZON 19-00848 in District 6 within the 9300 through 9500 blocks of East Cadence Parkway, located east of Ellsworth Road and south.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you could read in the staff recommendation.
I'm sorry. I will back up. So agenda item 3A, the recommendation on that is, staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Agenda item 3B is, the staff recommendation there is approval with conditions. And then back to agenda item 3C, this again is case ZON 19-00848 in District 6 within the 9300 through 9500 blocks of East Cadence Parkway, located east of Ellsworth Road and south of Ray Road. It is a site plan review. This request will allow a multi-residential development within the Cadence at Gateway community. The staff recommendation is to continue this to the January 22nd, 2020 meeting. Agenda item 4A is case ZON 19-00706 in District 5 within the 2400 block of North Val Vista Drive, located south of McDowell Road on the east side of Val Vista Drive. It is a rezoning from RS35 to RS35 PAD and site plan review. This request will allow for the development of a single residence subdivision. The staff recommendation for this item is that it be tabled. Agenda item 4B is case ZON 19-00710 in District 6 within the 2700 to, within the 7000 to 7600 blocks of East Guadalupe Road and within the 2800 through 3100 blocks of South Sossaman Road, located south of Guadalupe Road and west of Sossaman Road. This is a rezone from NCPAD to RS6PAD and modification of an existing PAD. This request will allow for the development of a single residence subdivision. The recommendation by staff on this is to continue it to the January 22nd, 2020 meeting. Agenda item 4C is case ZON 19-00805 in District 6 within the 10,600 to 10,800 blocks of East Williamsfield Road, within the 6,000 to 6,200 blocks of South Signal Butte Road, within the 6,200 to 6,400 blocks of South Signal Butte Road, and within the 10,800 to 11,100 blocks of the East Underwood Avenue alignment located on the southwest corner of Williamsfield Road and Signal Butte Road and south of Williamsfield Road on the east side of Signal Butte Road, modifying portions of an approved zoning district designations with a PAD overlay in the destination at Gateway PAD, specifically rezoning from RS9 PAD, RSL 2.5 PAD, and RM2 PAD to LC PAD, RM3 PAD, and RSL 4.5 PAD with major modifications to the PAD overlay and a site plan review. Also consideration of a preliminary plat for destination at Gateway Parcel 15. This request will allow for a major modification to destination at Gateway PAD. This item is being tabled at the request of the applicant. Agenda item 4D is case ZON 19-00834 in District 4, 1102 East University Drive, located west of Stapley Drive on the north side of University Drive. This is a rezone from RM4 to NC and a site plan review. This request will allow the expansion of existing personal services within an existing building. The recommendation by staff is approval with conditions. Agenda item 5A is a preliminary plat approval for Desert Place at Morrison Ranch, District 6, within the 7,000 to 7,600 blocks of East Guadalupe Road and within the 2,800 through 3,100 blocks of South Sossaman Road, located south of Guadalupe Road and west of Sossaman Road, a preliminary plat. The staff recommendation on this item is to continue it to the January 22nd, 2020 P&Z meeting. Agenda item 5B is a preliminary plat for destination at Gateway Parcel 15 in District 6 within the 10,600 to 10,800 blocks of East Williamsfield Road, within the 6,000 to 6,200 blocks of South Signal Butte Road, within the 6,200 to 6,400 blocks of South Signal Butte Road, and within the 10,800 to 11,100 blocks of East Underwood Avenue alignment, located on the southwest corner of Williamsfield Road and Signal Butte Road and south of Williamsfield Road on the east side of Signal Butte Road. This is a preliminary plat, as I said. The staff recommendation is to table this item at the request of the applicant. And that completes the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I would make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as read into the record for on January 8th, 2020.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that.
Everyone, please vote. Okay, so the consent agenda passes unanimously. Now we will go ahead and talk about the remaining items on the agenda. I'm going to actually read items 6A, 6B, and 6C all together because we'll be discussing them in one action, if that's so to speak. Okay, so 6A is KZON 19-00954 in District 5 within the 5,600 to 6,000 blocks of East Thomas Road and within the 3,600 to 4,000 blocks of North Wrecker Road, located north of Thomas Road and west of Wrecker on approximately 109 acres. This is a minor general plan amendment to change the character type from parks to neighborhood. Item 6B is KZON 19-00806, District 5. This is in the same location as I previously read into the record, but this is a rezoning from PS to RS6 PAD and RS7 PAD. And finally, item 6C is the associated preliminary plat for the reserve at Red Rock, again with the same address as previously mentioned. And Mr. Balmer is our staff planner. Would you like to give us a presentation, please?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is case, I have two cases here. So we have ZON 19-00806 and ZON 19-00954. As you mentioned, this is the northwest corner of the intersection of Wrecker Road and Thomas Road. We're adjacent to Wrecker Road on the east of the property, Thomas Road on the south. On the north end of the property, we have some developed LI property, Namo Tally. On the west side of the property, the majority is RS90, undeveloped residential property. We do have a section of LIPAAD in the southwest corner of the site. As you mentioned, we have two requests. The first is a minor general plan amendment to change the designation, the character type from parks and open space to neighborhood. The second request, as you mentioned, is to change the zoning from PS, public and semi-public, to RS6 with a PAD overlay and RS7 with a PAD overlay. This would facilitate the development of a 296-unit single-family development. Here we have the applicant's site plan. They have 3 lot sizes. In the southwest corner of the site, we have the smaller of the lots, 5,600 square feet. The orange lots on the east along Recker Road and in the center there are slightly larger, with the yellow lots in the north portion of the site being the largest lots at just over 9,000 square feet. We have 2 access points to the site, one on Recker Road, one on Thomas Road. The asterisks on the site plan indicate the open space amenity areas. As I mentioned, the first request is the general plan amendment. The image on the left shows the current general plan designation of the 136 acre parcel as parks and open space. The proposed change is shown on the right. Of that 136 acres, approximately 109 acres of it is requested to change to the neighborhood character type, with the balance on the northern portion of the site remaining a parks and open space designation. Compatibility with the surrounding land use. So on the east side of Recker Road is Red Mountain Ranch. Were this rezoning to be approved and this portion changed to a residential designation, it would really kind of continue that development pattern from the east side of Recker over to the west side of Recker. Surrounding the property, as I mentioned earlier, there are some industrially zoned properties. Namotali is on the north portion of the property. So backing up a minute to the general plan designation, the idea behind having 136 acres and a general plan and a rezoning request for a smaller amount of 109 acres, the balance, one, serves as an open space area that would be open to the public, and two, kind of buffers the residential use from the existing light industrial to the north of the property. The portion in the southwest corner of the property that's zoned LIPAD does have one tenant. It's an office warehouse use. The applicant has designed their site plan in such a way to really increase the landscaping in that specific area. And they've kind of redesigned the site plan a little bit to orient the road to create a larger buffer for the residents in that area. The applicant is also requesting a PAD overlay as part of this case, and there's a number of deviations being requested. Minimum lot size. One, I wanted to point out lot width. They're asking for a reduction of 5 feet in lot width, but they are asking to actually increase the depth of the lot. So the lots would be slightly narrower than our standard development standards, but they would be deeper. The other deviations deal with setbacks to garages, front setbacks. The 2 that you see with asterisks on the slide, the minimum street side setback is requested to be 5 feet if that is adjacent to an 8-foot landscape tract, would be the only scenario where that would apply. The same thing goes for the minimum rear yard abutting an arterial street. The requested deviation there is down to 15 feet for RS6, 20 feet for RS7, if those deviations are adjacent to a 10-foot landscape tract. We have a section of the zoning ordinance that deals with planned area development overlays. It's section 1122. And section 1122 kind of gives the purpose of a planned area development and that's to create a distinct high-quality development. So kind of in exchange for some of these deviations, the zoning ordinance lists some aspects that should be enhanced as part of this. Some of those are preserving natural character of the land, well-designed open space, recreational amenities, building design, site design, private streets. This development is requesting private streets. I put the site plan on this slide so that we can kind of take a look at it. As I mentioned in the study session, this is not in the desert uplands area. That starts farther east. But the developer has incorporated a lot of those desert upland concepts into this development. In desert uplands, the idea is as a preservation of open space by clustering lots and leaving as much of that undisturbed as possible. The applicant has done a good job of kind of clustering those lots around a wash, leaving a lot of open space. The white lines that don't show up the greatest on this PowerPoint are a trail network. So we've got trails. The major amenity for the site is located in the northern portion of the site. That's a clubhouse, an event lawn, that type of thing. We also have secondary amenities on the southern portion of the site. There's some pictures of the site. This is the intersection of Recker and Thomas looking northwest into the site. This is Recker Road, approximately Star Valley alignment-ish, and that's also looking into the site. The applicant completed a very robust citizen participation plan. They actually had 2 meetings. The first meeting, we did the standard mail out to 1,000 feet within the property, HOAs, registered neighborhoods. And that meeting was October 1st. 31 residents attended that meeting. They followed that up with a second meeting on November 14th, which was for the residents of Red Mountain Ranch. They had 125 residents at that meeting. It was a great discussion at both of those meetings. Staff was in attendance at both. And some of the questions and the concerns that were brought up by residents were increased traffic in the area. Are the roads able to accommodate 296 homes? Access points to the site. In the citizen participation, there's a lot of conversation about the use of the Red Mountain Ranch Park. One of the proposals that the developer is proposing for this development is the ability to utilize the Red Mountain Ranch Park. That would really be kind of a private agreement between the developer and the Red Mountain Ranch HOA. Were that not to materialize, the development itself, a reserve at Red Rock, has ample amenities that staff would expect for a development of that size. So it really kind of stands alone in its own regard. So just kind of to summarize, we have 2 requests. The general plan amendment, ZON 19-00954, staff is recommending approval of that. The zoning case, ZON 19-00806, conforms with the Mesa general plan, the standards for the RS district, and the purpose of the PAD. Staff is recommending approval with conditions of that request. And just kind of a housekeeping note, when we get to the motions part, I just wanted to remind the chair that the motion for the general plan amendment would need to occur before the rezoning. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions at this time for staff? No? Okay, thank you for now. I'm sure we'll come back to you. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Can somebody log on to this for me? Let me get started while we log on here, and I'll just step over here. My name is Sean Lake, 1744 South Val Vista, here on behalf of Blandford Homes. And first off, it really is a pleasure to be here on this project. In my career, you don't get many opportunities to do a truly unique, outstanding project like this, and so I'm really excited to be here. And I want to give big kudos, or in the vernacular of my children, a shout out, if you will, to Norris Design, who has a representative who is extensively involved in working on the design of this project, as well as Wood Patel. Tom Lemon on behalf, boy, it's just going through things. There we go. Tom Lemon is here on behalf of Blandford Homes. Really have done an excellent job of looking at this property and making this project fit within the property, not making the property fit within what we want to do. And so they really walked the site. They spent a great deal amount of time looking at the terrain and the character of the site to come up with a plan that works with the contours of the land. Not only the contours of the land, but the views. This is a very unique site in that if you stand on it, which I'm sure you have, and you look to the north, you have this overpowering red mountain staring down at you. And so to capitalize on that was a necessity for this project. And I think Norris and Wood Patel have done an excellent job, as well as Blandford Homes and Tom, looking at each individual street and layout of the lot to take advantage of that. And as we get into it, I'll point out some of the things of what they've done. Before I get started, Evan did an excellent job of outlining there has been extensive neighborhood involvement on this project. As he pointed out, we had a neighborhood meeting where we invited the 1,200 feet of our closest friends to a neighborhood meeting and presented the project. After that, we heard, hey, you didn't invite all of Red Mountain Ranch. And so in Mr. Blandford's character, he said, then let's have another neighborhood meeting, and we're going to invite everybody in Red Mountain Ranch. And so we put together a massive mailer and invited everyone within Red Mountain Ranch. We also were invited by the Red Mountain Ranch Board, who held a HOA meeting, inviting everybody within Red Mountain Ranch. And we went to that board meeting, and we presented our project and had a question and answer for quite a long time. So there's been really 3 big neighborhood meetings. We have had many meetings with the Red Mountain Ranch HOA Board in their board meetings. We've met with Namotali, the property owner to the north. We've met with Boeing. We've met with the surrounding property owners and businesses, and we have really tried to do an extensive outreach on this project. It's written up, most of that is written up in our citizen participation report. So I think a great job was done leading up to this. So let me get started. As many of you know, the project is located on the northwest corner. Why is it doing this? Northwest corner of Recker and Thomas. This computer's freaking out on me. Not only did they take into account the contours of the land, the views of the land, but they wanted to look to see what is there. We didn't want to do something that was out of character for the area. Red Mountain Ranch is an outstanding project that has been built for many years, and it has been sustainable and very attractive still to this day. It's a great project, and we're glad to be part of what has been built out there. So we looked at the lot sizes that Red Mountain Ranch has in the area, and we wanted to fit that character. So Norris Design and Wood Patel and Blandford Homes put together a project that we think designs with the site, designs the streets and the lots with the site, with the view contours with the land, as well as the lot sizes within the project. As staff pointed out, the smallest lots would be located, I'll call them brown, or the southwest corner of the property at 5,600 square foot lots, and then you transition to the orange lots at around 7,800 square feet. Again, you can see over on the right-hand side of that screen the lot sizes of Red Mountain Ranch, and then in the yellow, the larger lots that would fit within that community, and these plans have been presented. Of careful consideration was the preservation of open space. You can see that we've preserved about 67 acres of open space. Part of that open space is that large buffer on the north side, about 26, 28 acres up on the north side. Blandford Homes will be purchasing that property from the city of Mesa as part of the auction, but then they will be deeding back to the city a portion, that portion of that north property along there that the city will own and will have a public park that will be accessible by all the citizens of the city of Mesa, not just the residents of this HOA or that HOA. It will be, people will be able to go and walk the trails and enjoy the beauty of that roughly 30 acres up on that north side. We, in addition to that open space on the north side, have amenities within our project. You can kind of see the dark burgundy star kind of around the yellow lots. That will be the main clubhouse, main facility, main pool for the project of this gated community. On the lower side, in the middle of the brown lots and the orange lots, are 2 white asterisks or stars. Those will also be public open space and amenities where they'll have recreational facilities. We'll call those sub-open space or sub-parks within the community. So this project has been designed to stand alone on itself with its own amenities, with its own parks, with its open space. And I haven't even begun to mention the trails. When you preserve this amount of open space, you have the opportunity to put in a substantial amount of trails for people to walk and get around the project without having to go out onto a blacktop roadway. And so there will be a substantial amount of roads or of trails in and around this project. One of the things that I want to highlight as you look at this plan that I find particularly interesting is you look at the main entrance off of Thomas Road. If you look kind of in the center, typically you'd have an entrance come straight into the subdivision and then disperse out. If you look at it, it's kiltered a little bit to the east. And the reason that they did that is they stood on the property at that location thinking, okay, we'll have our main entrance here. If you look this way, it's a so-so view, but if you turn just a little bit, you can have your main entrance that will come directly with this massive red mountain as the backdrop to your main entry, taking advantage of the views of the property, the unique views that this property has. So we have just the little touches that they've done. If you look at the lots, over 90% of these lots back up to open spaces or tracks. So they're not gridding out this property to maximize and get as much sand into a bag, as if you will. I've heard that expression before here. They're not trying to get as much sand as they possibly can into the bag, but they're trying to create a real living environment where you have open space backing up to majority of the lots within this project. And then turning the lots. They're not all exactly north-south, but they're kind of turned each way so that the backyards or the views, you can take advantage of not only the open space tracks, the wash and the trails, but also the Red Mountain Ranch as well. They've done an excellent job. The next slide kind of touches on those open space areas and where they're at. The next slide goes to the main entryways, which is going to be a kind of a real resort type feel as you come into the community. This would be the entrance off of Thomas Road, which is the main access point into this community. These are blow-ups of, this would be the main open space area in the north project. It would have a clubhouse and a pool and a lot of trails and amenities that lead to that. So you can walk out of your home, get on a trail, and get to any one of those three open space areas. Again, this would be the Southwest Neighborhood Park. I think it skipped over the Southeast Neighborhood Park, but here's some of the conceptual design. As many of us know, Blandford Homes has been building homes in Northeast Mesa for a very, very long time. They do a very nice project, both in Lascendis and Mountain Bridge and other projects in Mesa. They do a high quality, very attractive project. And they're planning to carry over some of those floor plans that are very, very popular in those other, into this project, as well as develop new stuff for this specific community. I talked about the North Park area that will be given back to the city. The city would be maintaining, owning, and taking care of that. We're working out a separate agreement, a development agreement with the city to deal and address that so that it will be available and open to the public. So with that, I've just kind of gone over some highlights of the project. I think it's an excellent project that has been well thought out, and I'm just going to shut this. I think it's been well thought out, and it's been designed to meet the land and not force itself onto the land. And so I'm really going to be proud of this one. I think you will be too as it develops out, and looking forward to see it develop as we move forward. Staff has done an excellent job. We've worked with Evan and Veronica and Nana and putting together a recommendation in their staff report. They have conditions of approval. There's noise disclosures. There's disclosures regarding the airport. I think conditions 5 through 10. I think it's 4 or 5 conditions specifically deal with those issues. So we haven't ignored where we're at and making sure that we have the proper disclosures and easements granted. So I believe there's 4 or 5 conditions that deal specifically with that. So we think staff's done a great job. We support their conditions of approval, and we would recommend or hope that you would recommend approval to the city council so that we can move on with a favorable vote. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant right now? We might have you come back up, though.
All right, thank
We
you.
have some more questions. Any questions of staff before we open up to the public comments? No?
Just a quick staff question. With the conditions of approval have all the notification stuff for the airport. If someone was to just put that in their original stuff, you wouldn't need to add that in conditions of approval, right? Like, is that something that future developers should just anticipate that they're going to need to put that in?
Madam Chair, Board Member Boyle, we have some kind of standard conditions when you're in an airfield overflight 3 district, as this property is, and that is notifications. And I think to answer your question, it is something that developers, I guess, could do on their own, but we include these standard conditions just to make sure that nothing's missed and that everything is notified in as many different ways as we can.
Okay, so no one could ever pull off just approved. It's always approval with conditions because you'll always put these little reminders in?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff this time? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and open this up to public comment. I have several blue cards here, and won't read them in any particular order. Just a reminder that just so everyone has an opportunity to speak, I have to cut you off at 3 minutes. And so I don't mean to be rude if I do that, but if that 3-minute mark, you'll have access to the timer yourself. Just please try to wrap up at 3 minutes. And also just a reminder that today we are here to discuss the rezoning and minor general plan amendment and the preliminary plat for this project. So the first card is George Schaefer. You are opposed to this item and wish to speak? Sir, if you come down here to the podium and we're a little bit more formal, so you have to state your name and address for the record, and then you can share your thoughts.
I am George Schaefer. I live at 4055 Record Road. A couple of concerns I have. First, mainly, and then we've talked about this in other meetings, is the amount of traffic that Record Road may encounter from this development. If you're not familiar with that area, the north side of Thomas on Record Road is a very, very quiet area, and it's not generally a crossover over to Power Road. So people in the area know that, but people that don't know the area, a lot of them don't. They just think that's not a through street because there's a sign that says that. So with the 296 housing development, a lot of us are concerned about how much traffic is going to increase on Record Road. And I wondered if there's been any kind of a study in regards to that, number one. And number two, I'm concerned about the entryway from Record Road into the subdivision. Is that going to be directly across from Star Valley? Do we need to consider put a stop sign there? Do we need to consider the amount of traffic that will be coming through there? There's an awful lot of pedestrian traffic there. People who live into Red Mountain, that's one of the most popular areas to take a walk. And how's that going to impact any pedestrian traffic? The second question I had was about the park, and I think the gentleman addressed it. But those of us that live in Red Mountain, that's a private park, and we all value that park, and we want to make sure that nothing is backed up to the park that's going to cause any issues with the park. In other words, that still make it as a neighborhood park as it is. And my last concern is about NAMO Tally, in that they do conduct experiments from time to time where they have explosive things that does jar the neighborhood. And I can't imagine living up right next to it. I realize there's a buffer there, but I can't imagine how those residents are going to feel when their house starts to shake as they're doing their testing that they do in that plant. So those are my three main concerns.
Thank you. I think I've kept track of these, and what we'll do is once everyone's had a chance to speak, then we'll direct some questions to staff to get clarification, and then we'll probably have the applicant come up as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Brian Smith.
Hi, my name is Brian Smith. I live at 4004 North Rainier. My property is roughly the last one before the defense contractor fence that runs along here, so I can attest that the noise is substantial. And I'm certain that the people who are going to be closer to that are going to have issues. So my question is simply, if this community is gated and it's private, I see there's a trailhead entrance that's almost at Rainier, which if you look at the little red line for the, I guess the end of the Homeland Defense or whatever that boundary is for Tally. If there's people going to be using that trailhead, is there a parking lot or are these people just going to be coming in on foot? You know, it looks like that's the only entrance to the buffer or the trailhead that's in the buffer. And I just would hate to see this road, which is already congested, as everyone has attested, be a parking lot. And I'd also hate to see people parking on my street so they can take their bike over there and ride back and forth. And, you know, clearly, when I bought this property 20 years ago, one of the things that I looked into when I came to the city and checked, because there was a sign back there that said Future Park, it's still there if you go back in there a ways, was I looked forward to that happening. Clearly that never occurred. I wish that it had, and when I saw that they were rezoning it, I assumed we were going to end up with something commercial. I'm glad to see it's residential, and clearly they've taken a lot of time and effort and put some thought into this, but, when you live somewhere for 20 years and you have the same view, I took pictures for my wedding in Red Mountain Park, and when I look at these houses here, my thoughts are, from Red Mountain Park, I'm not even going to be able to see Red Mountain. So I wish you guys would spend a lot of time deciding whether or not those of us who use that area, it's beautiful, and we would like to keep it that way. There's a lot of natural wildlife and landscaping back there that we're slowly losing in that area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We've noted your questions too, so we'll make sure that they're answered for you. Kay Carl?
First of all, I have to tell you, I have a melted chocolate in my pocket, and so I couldn't get a Kleenex from anybody, so I'm hanging on to this. Okay. I think all of us are concerned.
Can you state your name and address?
Oh, I'm
us,
sorry.
please?
Kay Carl, 4055 North Recker Road, Mesa. And I'm part of Red Mountain Ranch Country Club Estates. And my concern, and the majority of our neighbors, is, again, the congestion. Now, what people have not talked about before is I actually did a spreadsheet. And if you do 296 homes with 2 to 5 garages offered, depending upon who selects what in what area, you can have anywhere from 761 cars to 1,123 cars. Some of those spaces are going to be used for storage, but granted that, but that's a lot of traffic. And then if you look, not only are you proposing to have an entrance on Recker, which we're not happy about, but I'll talk about that in a minute if you don't cut me off. But in addition to that, they want use of our park, which would be more congestion. And in addition to that, then what are we going to do about the entrance to the park that they actually donate back to the city because they can't develop it? So we're talking about 3 different entrances, and if that's going to be a city park and it's going to be developed, a meeting place or whatever, what are we going to do about the traffic? It's just not going to work. And in addition to that, is we had the same issue in that when we purchased our lot and built in the 90s, it was going to be a park. It was forever going to be a part of the general plan, and now it's not. My concern is if people stop using Recker and want to get into the neighborhood from other places, they're going to shoot up Thomas, and they're going to go in on another street is right by our school. And if anybody wants to see the kids come out of that school, it's a circus. And again, I cannot understand why anyone, especially the nicer homes that are planned by Blandford, have nicer homes there right where we lived, and we're not even 500 feet from the development. We hear the explosions. We just don't understand why you would go ahead and allow that to happen and have people live there. Now, put my chocolate back in my pocket.
Thank you. Sandy Fan?
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. Sandy Fan. I'm at 6264 East Star Valley Street in Red Mountain Ranch. Can I give you a paper each?
Sure, if you would start down here and or actually give it to Mr. Pia, and then he could give it to us.
I have, of course, now I can't remember because I don't have one to refer to, but I'll maybe you can help me. Actually, can you grab me those? Yeah, thanks. No, that's okay. So, there's more that I can't possibly say what I have to say in 3 minutes, but I'll do my best here. I'm not a very good public speaker, so I may read this thing, and that way you won't have to read it later. But I have 3 petitions here. First of all, I want to say Blandford is a great developer, and they're doing a good job to work with us and everything. And it's many of our residents have really learned to enjoy this park that we have, and it's smack in the middle of his development. And we're going to lose value in 2 ways. One is we thought a municipal park would go in there, and it's not going to anymore. So all of us feel a great sense of loss from that. On top of that, the existing park we have is now going to be surrounded by houses. When before, people used to be able to see sunsets, look at Red Mountain in the background, take pictures, enjoy wildlife, and it's all going to be shut off and closed in. So we feel a great sense of loss because of that. I'm just going to go ahead and read this because, like I say, there's just more than I could possibly say. I have a note here. It says, well, first of all, I'm sorry. The three petitions, one is to control the nature of the improvements to the park so that our park still has some view of Red Mountain, so that if homes back up to the park, they have a high wall so that the people that live there will not be complaining about our use of the park, because we do have kids play, dogs, parties, things like that.
Ms. Brown, hold on just one second. I don't think that she had the full 3 minutes. I don't think the clock started at 0 for her. So can you reset it to 2 minutes so that she doesn't get cut off at 1 minute?
Thank you.
Chair, yes, we should be able to do that.
Okay, I'll try and be quick. I know it'll make me sound bad, but I'll rush anyway. Petition 2 about the proposed hiking trail. We're suggesting that they have an entrance. All the negative sides of that hiking trail, the parking lot area, having cars along Recker Road, all of that is going to be borne by Red Mountain Ranch residents. So we're suggesting that an entrance to that hiking trail be put on Thomas Road and go through the Blandford community or around the Blandford community, rather than come from our community. And so we don't have to deal with all the vandalism, police calls, parking, late night, goings on, and just general traffic. The third petition is that we are going to request that you provide another park, a different park, because you're taking a park away from us that we thought was going to be there. Somebody pointed out there's still a sign sitting there that says it's supposed to be a municipal park. So every day when we go to that park, we see that sign, and we just had the expectation that that was what was going to happen. So somebody on city council didn't like it because we voted down a baseball park, and that wasn't our idea of a park. When we moved out here, we wanted to be where the wildlife was and everything, and now it's affecting it. I'm sorry. Okay. What likely happened is a real estate developer, Blandford, is always looking for a new piece of land. He probably had his eye on the acreage here in spite of the fact that the master plan was to have a municipal park. By the way, there's a perfect park there for his community to enjoy. It's backing up the homes there would make a beautiful view of the green lawn. Convincing city council that it was a waste of money to have a park was probably easy. Making a solid auction bid, then he could convince us to let us share our park, because inevitably everyone would use it anyway. Now we should take some kind of compensation rather than no compensation at all. Mr. Blandford's VP, Todd, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name, came to meetings and reminded everyone that dog parks are unseemly, sources of community conflict, and not a good selling point for Blandford communities. This in spite of the fact that he knows that that's probably what most of the community will use our park for.
I'm so sorry, your 3 minutes.
Okay, you can read the rest. There's more points about how we feel this was a rush project. We didn't get enough time to put input. And there's few people here because Mr. Blandford convinced us all that it was a done deal and that there wasn't any protesting to be done. So there would have been more people here if they realized there was something they could have done about it. So I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, there's a card here that has both John and Jean Sells. So would one of you like to come up on behalf of both? Okay. Make sure the clock, okay, you're set at 3.
Good afternoon. I'm John Sell, 4055 North Recker Road. I sent an email to Mr. Ballmer with most of our points, and a lot of them have been shared by Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Smith, et cetera. The biggest thing that we just want to get on the record has to, again, do with the traffic. The Country Club Estates, where I live in, has 2 access points. One is a main entrance and exit, and the main entrance comes off of Recker Road. And again, we're very adamant that the main entrance for this development comes off of Thomas Road with only a emergency exit or very minimal amount of traffic would be used for access into the Blandford development. For the council too, I just want to remind that Recker Road and all of Red Mountain Ranch, they have joggers, there's golf carts, there's mothers walking their dogs and strollers and et cetera. It's a 2-lane road. And there's just, again, a certain area that's just warned off for the bikers. It's a very high-used bicyclist area. And the concern with all these homes, 296 homes coming in, Kay said it very well in regards to the number of cars that would be coming in. And I think it's important to let the council know that twice a year, you have a sobriety checkpoint at Power in Viewmont. And that is shut off for people that come back from Saguaro Lake. Where do they come through? They navigate through. And for people that have to get out, where do they have to go? They have to go once again through Record Road. That's an issue. We also have a marathon that comes through. As a matter of fact, the next Mesa Marathon is February 8th. Where do they go through? Record Road. So I think you're hearing the theme from many of us. It's not the development of the park or of the new addition, but rather it's maintaining this area that we bought a house in to make it as, if you will, not as busy, and having all that traffic or the majority of the traffic that's going to be maintained or going into Blandford, keep it on Thomas and not at the expense of Record Road. Mr. Smith, who lives on Rainier, brings up a very good point, and that was part of Jeannie and our message to Mr. Balmer, and that has to do with this new park area on the north side. All well and good, but if parking is going to be at the expense on Record Road or in neighborhoods, what are people going to do? They're going to park on the street, which creates more traffic in the area. And then when they depart, what are they going to do? They're going to do a U-turn on Record Road to leave the area, or perhaps use a private driveway to, in fact, turn around to leave the area. So for the city council, I would just hope that this is all required or in your discussion. The main thing is the traffic and what it's doing for us that live in Red Mountain Ranch. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. David Bender?
Don't start the clock yet. I got to tuck my shirt in. Okay. My name is David Bender. I live at 7755 East Sugarloaf Circle in Mesa. I'm one of the directors of the Red Mountain Ranch Social Club. It's a party group, but yet we also do a lot of community projects, such as book boxes and things like that for the neighborhood. The Social Club is made up of about 170 members, and we object to the zoning change because of the loss of open space, the desert landscaping, and the future park usage for some of the area. We have no detailed comments on Blandford's conceptual plan. However, we do recommend that the Blandford housing be required to landscape the median on East Thomas Road in the area adjacent to their proposed development. This would tie into our second major recommendation, the landscaping of the median on the 1 mile section of East Thomas Road from North Power Road west to North Record Road. This would include trees, cacti, and desert shrubs, and something similar to what's on East McKellips Road in the Mountain Bridge community. We realize that second recommendation is not part of the rezoning case, but it is one way for the city to help compensate the surrounding neighborhoods for the loss of the proposed parkland as a result of this rezoning. A landscaped median on this wide Thomas Road should have been done when Red Mountain Ranch was built back in the 80s, because it does divide the Red Mountain Ranch community. The city was also considering this during the time when the Record Road interchange was being built on Loop 202 as a way of traffic calming on Thomas Road. But there was no funding for this work at that time. The Social Club is proposing that some of the windfall funds that the city is going to receive from the sale of the parkland to Blandford should be utilized for this landscaping project. We've been circulating a petition within the neighborhood, and we'll have a petition present to the city council asking for this funding for what we think is a way of helping improve the neighborhood, not just the loss of parkland. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nadia Aluwalia? I apologize if I didn't do that correctly.
Everyone gets it wrong. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time. Before I start, I like to just put yourself in our place, just like
Could
our
you say your-
neighbors.
I'm sorry, your name and address.
It's Nadia Aluwalia, and I live on 4016 North Rainier, and I am also a small business owner in Mesa. I actually chose Mesa in 2018 to open my second business because I felt like it was a very underserved and very lucrative area, just like Blandford does. However, before buying a house at Red Mountain, I did a lot of research, and I was really captivated, like all my neighbors, by the looks, the open space, and the beautiful scenery. Even though I don't get to enjoy the Red Mountain from my home, I know that I have access to this park where I can go with my neighbors, my friends, my pets, and enjoy this. So, of course, in an ideal world, I would love to object to the community, the new community proposed. However, as a business owner, I know that this is a very long shot, and I know that the area is very lucrative. So I have what I think is a solution for everyone. I believe that if we really are that concerned about having access to nature and the views, and Blandford does say, like Mr. Lake said, and also our neighbors, we're very concerned about losing that access to the park, the views, the sunsets, and it is a high traffic area on Record Road. I highly suggest that we should stop construction at Star Valley. You can see Star Valley on our screen. There's like a weird cul-de-sac after that street. Star Valley, in my opinion, should be where construction for the community stops, because then that way you'll actually have a true intention to give everyone in the city access to this trail park. I drove by this street today, and I noticed the area that they want to leave open for us to access the trails, and it's very narrow. If we just stop construction from that north cul-de-sac at Star Valley, we can actually include a parking lot. So all those traffic issues, and people honestly do parking in our two streets, one way to go, north and one way to go south, could be solved by doing parking and a big entrance to the trails. That is my proposal. Do you guys know what I'm talking about, that north cul-de-sac? Yes. And then other than that, again, I wish this wasn't happening. I did purchase a house there just this summer because of these very main reasons. But at the very least, I think if we leave Star Valley open, we can also leave access to all the wildlife that we get every single night. That is a natural pathway for javelinas and coyotes. So I am vegetarian. I am very, very, very passionate about this. So I thank you, everyone, and I hope that you guys do consider my proposal as if you live in there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And our last blue card is Eileen Lukes.
Good afternoon. My name is Eileen Lukes, and my address is 4055 North Record Road. I have 4 questions, comments. First of all, what are the city's plans to address the water needs of this new residential community? Is the city requiring these new houses to be free of lawns and other vegetation that require irrigation? I was real disappointed to see the pictures that were shown earlier in this meeting with so much lawn, and it does not look like a desert, and that's where we live. Second question is, what are the city's plans for schools for children of these 300 new houses? My observations of new developments around Mesa over the last 30 years lead me to conclude that there is no strategy except to add a few temporary trailers after the fact to impacted schools already out there. At today's meeting, we're talking about this parcel, but you'll have another zoning meeting in the near future, I'm guessing, to discuss property on the southwest corner of Recker and Thomas. And my understanding from stuff I've read is that it's going to be the plan or the proposal is a high density living area, and I guess my question is, where can we find long-term plans for schools? I did not find it on the school's website. Third question, what's the city's plan to address police and fire needs of additional communities that are built? What is the metric for adding additional personnel? Because, yeah, we have a fire station down the block, but 300 more houses here is certainly going to add to, and the additional congestion, it's going to add to the burden on our resources. And then my final is, will there be restrictions on accessing the community during the building selling phase so that abnormally high traffic is minimized on Recker Road, to reiterate what other people have already said? And will they be putting in additional speed bumps along Recker Road? I request respectfully that this project not be approved until these issues have been addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't have any more blue cards, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment section. I've been taking notes, I think some others have too, but I'd like to ask staff a few questions, and then we'll have Mr. Lake come up. Just the common concern with traffic. I'd like to know what our traffic engineer had to say. And what about the parking for the trailhead? Those are my first two questions.
Sure, Madam Chair. So traffic has been, or transportation has been involved in the review process of this. They've not raised any concerns about traffic. I reached out to them again, to Sabine, our traffic engineer, to talk about road capacities on Recker and Thomas, and she had a few points. One was that both Recker and Thomas specifically is a 5-lane arterial. Recker is the traffic volumes that it has currently. It's able to take in these 296 homes. Excuse me. It has adequate volume on both Recker and Thomas for the 296 proposed homes. Another point that she brought up was the location of the access point on Recker is not all the way towards the north portion of the site. It's more towards the middle of the development, which would also limit traffic on Recker. With there being 2 access points, it's reasonable to assume that not all of the residents of this development will be utilizing Recker Road, especially with the layout of the subdivision, where we've got the majority of the smaller lots actually in the southwest corner of the site along Thomas Road. Those were the 2 points that she wanted me to bring up on that. With regards to the park, the city is still kind of finalizing the details of the park. We're still kind of working through that process on what that looks like exactly. One thing that has come up repeatedly is the idea of having kind of a low-key trailhead. So I don't think the idea is to have a well-advertised trailhead, for lack of a better term, but kind of keep it on a smaller scale that would be more consistent with the neighborhood.
So the plan for that, who oversees that, and how does that ultimately get approved? Is that a staff level thing, or will council be involved with that?
Yeah, Madam Chair. So it's our Parks Department is going to work through that process. Eventually, it would go to City Council for review.
Did you have a trailhead? I still have some. Go ahead.
I did have a question along question along that line. I didn't hear you say. I know you said they talked about not advertising that, kind of making it a smaller park, but still for the parking for those people that do know about it. Mm-hmm. Are they considering? Is there going to be consideration of it for a parking lot somehow incorporated in that to keep the traffic off of parking along Recker?
Sure, Madam Chair, Board Member Allen. So at this point, it's kind of been identified as the northern portion of the site will be a public park. The details of that are still, we're still working through that, and we're in that process. At this point, they've acknowledged that we do probably need some parking there. The idea is again, that it's more of a low-key parking area, but the very preliminary discussions we've had, there would be a need for some sort of parking lot there.
Board Member Crockett?
Madam Chair, I just had a follow-up question on that. I think I know the answer to the question, but will there be a public participation process that local residents would be involved in with respect to the park and how that'll be developed?
Madam Chair, Board Member Crockett, so that would be kind of spearheaded by our Parks Department. When plans get closer to being finalized, it is a public park that would go through some sort of public review process. What that looks like specifically, I don't have an answer for, but as it is a municipal park, there would be a level of review involved in that.
And I guess I'm just trying to determine that there is, I assume there's a process for the public to have input on these issues as the park is designed and moves forward.
Chair, members of the board, so yes, public parks actually goes through our park department and it has its own process. In addition to that, so your recommendation tonight does not include that parcel as well, so.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. What about some of the infrastructure and emergency services questions? I don't think that's really in our purview to talk about, but just so the public knows that the city is looking at that, like with schools, emergency services, construction or traffic mitigation through the construction process.
Chair, members of the board, I'll address a couple of them. So we do send, as part of our application review, we do send applications to the school district, and we basically ask for their input. They did not object to any issues that will come as a result of the additional residents that we're going to be adding to the area. In addition, whenever we receive development application, we send it to all the city departments as well, that we wait for their input. So fire, engineering, all the other departments, and we do receive comments from them. If they have any major concerns, we would have basically highlighted the concerns if there were any. As of now, our recommendation was based on there wasn't any objection or major concerns or concerns raised as well.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I've been hogging all the questions here. Board Member Sarkisian.
Just something to clarify the process. Can you explain how we got from there being a sign on the site saying this is a future park to here?
Evan, do you want to start and then I'll add to it?
Sure, Madam Chair, Board Member Sarkisian. So the city purchased this property many years ago with the intention of creating a public park here. That was always the thought behind this property. It went to two different bond elections that did not pass. So there was never funding to do the park here. It was voted down twice through the election process for the park bond. So in looking at this, you know, it has been to two bond elections. They didn't pass. The city looked at it as maybe we need to look at a different plan here. And the property after that point went to an auction back in May, and Blandford was the highest bidder on that point at that point, and they are going through the entitlement process currently.
So you're not the Parks Department, but when you've ever experienced on, or are they reallocating where the park goes, or they distribute? Like, I know they have different parks. They have active parks, passive parks, different things like that. So have you noticed, I don't know, is the city like kind of reorganizing their efforts somewhere else, or?
Chair, members of the board, so one of the discussions we've had with the Parks Department is they also look at level of service when it comes to park. And my understanding is right now, the level of service, it was totally dependent on the bond being approved. In addition, the level of service of parks around that area is sufficient as well. So that's why right now, this property actually warrants it to be rezoned to another use.
I guess I feel for the neighbors, because I understand the bond election, the park thing, because we just had the Mesa Plays thing, and everybody approved the parks but didn't approve the payment. And you can't build a park without funds. So it feels like we kind of keep getting ourselves in this situation of we have best intentions and then it sits there, I guess.
Yeah, just a question on the schools. I don't see anything in the formal city write-up on the schools, and just a note here that this is not going to be anticipated to have a detrimental impact on the educational facilities. But I think it's a standard that we reach out to the principal and say, hey, there's 300 houses coming in. Can you manage that sort of thing? Was that done, just not recorded?
Chair, members of the board, yes, we send the application to the school district, and the standard kind of comments we receive from them if they have adequate capacity to serve the use. And most of the time, if they do have issue, they will inform us. So we did send the application to the school district.
And this is Red Mountain, I think, the school, the high school. So let's send us. Do you know?
There's an open.
Becky, do you know what school district we did?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yes.
And what high school? It's Red Mountain High School. Okay. Which Red Mountain doesn't have any portables now, does it? Does anyone know? I don't think it's had. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? We've got a few more. Board Member Allen first.
Sorry, the other question I had was, I guess one of the comments was made about cyclists and pedestrians on record, and I haven't been out there in a while, so I don't know, is there dedicated cycle lanes on Power or Thomas? Yes. There are, okay. Yeah.
So, there are designated. Board Member Crockett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to follow up. Again, I think I know the answer to the question, but you notified the schools regarding the application. I'm assuming that the schools did not raise a concern or an objection.
That's correct. That's correct, and Becky can confirm the information, but I know for sure we've been sending the applications. We've actually, as the board may remember, a couple of months ago, we did discuss and kind of streamline our processes of informing the school districts. So we have the right information. We have a template, a form that we send in addition to the application for them to respond. And we followed that procedure, and we did not receive any objection from the school district.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Anyone? Mr. Lake, would you like to come back up? And I know that most of the public comments seem to be related towards the city, I don't know how to say it, they're our realm, but if you want to respond to any of those comments.
I think staff did an excellent job identifying a lot of those issues. Let me just touch on, you can see one of the questions dealt with our access off of Wrecker Road. Right now there's a road, and I don't have a laser pointer, but Star Valley is kind of up on the north side. This subdivision on the north side of the project, right there, where that's Star Valley. We cut off that access because we did not want our entrance on Wrecker Road to align with the Red Mountain entrance. So what we did is we took that entrance and we shifted it south to just on the north side of the park that's being shown an arrow there. What that does is it brings the traffic further south onto Wrecker so that it has less impact upon Wrecker, and then you don't have that conflicting traffic movements from people coming out of Red Mountain Ranch and people coming out of our project, again, to try to minimize that traffic input on that. And so that's what we did to kind of address that. Naturally, the site speaks to where the entrances are. So as you can see, the entrance off of Thomas Road, that's the main grand entrance. That's the big one that people will be coming in. As you're coming in from the valley, you're going to be coming in off of Thomas Road. And the brown lots, really, if you live in that subdivision, you're using Thomas, because it doesn't make sense to come off of Wrecker and then wind your way all the way through a whole bunch of subdivisions. The orange lots, I would say 50-50, right around there, depending on where you're going, where your traffic is. But a lot of the lots of the orange lots would also use the Thomas Road access point, just because of the nature of we tend to take the shortest distance drive. The yellow lots and those top orange lots, I think those people will use the Wrecker Road access point, because that's natural. That's the shortest. You're headed up Wrecker Road and you just take a left into the community or a right out of the community. We have worked with the transportation department, and the capacity is there. There is not a whole lot of traffic on Thomas and Wrecker. And so we think that issue has been addressed, and we've worked with the transportation department on that. That was also brought up about noise in Namotali. We have done 2 noise studies on this site where we actually, Jeff Blandford and Tom and noise acoustical engineers have been out on site with their apparatus and equipment at various locations where the lots would be on this site, and in conjunction with Namotali, where they exploded and fired off things and did the things that they do. And the studies came back and were well within the residential guidelines of those. And so Jeff and Tom actually stood on the site when they're doing their thing, and neither of them expressed a concern. I mean, Blandford Homes is paying a substantial amount of money, and the last thing that they want to do is have a subdivision where the noise would preclude or exclude people from purchasing here. And so they've done studies and are very comfortable with the findings of those acoustical studies for noise. Access to the public parking lot, not a parking lot. I'm glad I'm not involved in that. Quite honestly, it's the city's park. I hear a ton of people saying no parking lot. I hear people saying yes, parking lot. People don't want parking lot because they don't want people to pull in, sit in the parking lot and party and do things late at night. Other people want access to the park and want a parking lot. That's something that the city council ultimately is going to have to decide themselves in their process through the Parks Department process. I don't want a part of it. And again, that's not part of our application here tonight. So I'm glad I don't have a dog in that hunt. Let's see. I think that addresses most everything. If I missed something, I'll be happy to answer.
Board Member, there's a bunch of buttons. I'm sorry, I went this way. Mr. Crockett?
Mr. Lake, thank you for those clarifications. Let me ask you a question about the Red Mountain HOA Park. The developer, your client, is working on some kind of a joint, possibly a joint use agreement there, but if that, isn't that dependent upon whether the Red Mountain HOA ultimately will agree to that?
Yes, Chairman, Board Member Crockett. First, let me say, we have designed our project to have sufficient open space and amenities by ourselves. We think there's more than enough and ample trails and open spaces and amenities without it. But the reality is there's a notch at the middle east of this project that is the Red Rock Park. And so early on in this process, you have to recognize that. And to do that would be disingenuous. And so we went to the Red Mountain Ranch HOA and we said, if the Red Mountain Ranch HOA agrees to it, we would agree, and again, it's not part of this process, but I'll go into it voluntarily, we would agree to give or do a certain amount of improvements to your HOA park so that you can do whatever Red Mountain Ranch wants to do, improvements to the park. And we would also agree to pay a portion of our HOA dues for the perpetual long-term maintenance and operation of that park if you let us be equal, just like you. So we would be able to use the park, you would be able to use it, we contribute capital, we contribute ongoing maintenance. If they tell us no, they tell us no, we'll keep our money. If they tell us yes, great. We'll work together and be part of the community with them.
Board Member Sarkisian, you had something?
I had a couple of questions. Actually, kind of a follow-up to that. So it looks like there's no parking at the Red Mountain Park. There's no kind of really fencing or any of that stuff. So that would be,
There is parking in the Red Rock Park.
but is paved and all that stuff?
There is
It
not
looks
paved,
like
but that
it's
would be one
gravel,
of the
it's
things
not-
we would be working with them on
Right, so,
improvements.
so those are some of the things that you guys would look, okay.
This just, we got.
So the other question I had was, some people brought up, so is the northern one on Rucker, is that a clicker only? Is that just is that a keypad entrance? What is that, what is that?
Both,
Both would
excellent
be
question, Chairman. Board Member Sarkisian, both accesses would be gated access points. So the entrance off of Thomas and the entrance off of Recker would both be gated access points.
And, but is it like, it's not emergency access only, right?
No,
it
it's
could be
a-
like a keypad for somebody else to come into?
Correct. It would be a full, big, nice entry. The grand entrance is off of Thomas.
Right.
It's a big, nice
Gotcha.
entrance. I would call grand entrance off of Recker.
So would you would have they were asking about sales entrances and during construction entrances? So are you gonna, the sales entrance, is that primarily gonna be off of Thomas then? To like the model homes, that kind of stuff, or what's the proposal?
Excellent question as well. So these sales models, you would have 3 different model complexes within this project. So the Brown Homes would have their model complex, and the entrance obviously would be off of Thomas. The Orange Homes would have model complexes, and for the most part, that access would be off of Thomas as well. The Yellow Homes would have model homes, and those access would be off of Recker. We have talked to people about construction traffic and tried to limiting the construction traffic down off of Thomas, and that's something we're working on privately as well.
Are there any phases, or is this kind of just do it all at once?
We haven't gotten into the
Gotten
phase.
that far? Okay.
I just want to say, we've already given all the audience members time to speak in the public comment section, so you all had 3 minutes, and we closed the public comment section. So please refrain from having any comments or questions or speaking out or anything at this stage, please.
Right.
No,
So,
no,
yeah.
no.
So, and then Recker Road is already, it looks like it's already fully improved with sidewalks and everything. So that would,
A portion of it, and then we'll be finishing, there will be some finishing off improvements.
oh, okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Lake? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now it's time for us to discuss, think, deliberate. Yes, sir, Mr. Boyle?
Do you want to start? Do you want someone to start?
Sure, go for it.
All right. First question I would have, just for future things, that park sign that's out there, I could see why that would be really disorienting and confusing, why it says there's a park. Might be worth checking out. Is it an official city thing? Was it some sort of development thing? Like, why is it there? And let's, in the future, be careful if something's not paid for as a park. Don't say if it's a future park. Like, I want to know more about why that sign is there and who put it there. If it was a good place like the city that made a mistake and did it, that's fine. If it was an evil developer that put it out there to lure people in, then we need to punish them severely. I feel for, I think it was Brian that had his wedding photos that were done there. We've had family photos done in that Red Mountain Park 2 or 3 years in a row. My sister-in-law used to live right by there, and she takes our photos. So I always feel for that. I always feel when new development comes in and views are ruined and things change. It's a part of what happens in cities. So I feel that sort of thing too. I love, Sean, when you said, you know, we saw that Red Mountain was there, so we just changed the orientation a little bit. Say that a lot to everybody. Like, that's the kind of thing we need to hear. And especially, like, take it a level down and say, well, we changed the way these houses look because then their windows would look out at Red Mountain or something like that. Like, that's the kind of thing we need to start thinking about in the city, is taking advantage of all of the beautiful scenery and stuff like that. So often in big subdivisions, they're just like, well, we put in as many houses as we could, and the windows don't look at anything. So I love that attention to detail, and I hope in the future projects like this are always thinking about that, of bringing in the sky, the mountains, the water, the things that we do have here, instead of just the dirt. So,
Thank you. Any other comments? Board Member Villanueva Sacido.
So I love your comments, totally reiterate them. I appreciate the attention paid to the natural environment instead of fighting it and just plopping something down, that you really work with the natural environment. So I appreciate that. And just love the amenities, the amount of open space, the fact that so many of the houses are adjacent to open space, really thoughtful. So I appreciate that. And I hope that we see more projects like that come to us rather than just 10 pounds of sugar in a 5-pound sack and try to squeeze in as many lots as possible. So again, I appreciate the thought to that. The fact that the density, as we use the term loosely for this kind of development, is further to the south, aligned with Thomas. And I just want to remind, again, those that might be viewing, and as much angst as there is about changes in our community, that is not the purview of this board. Decisions made about park space and whether it was sold or not happen before this board. How the park will be developed, any kind of amenities around the park, access to the park, again, not the purview of this board. Our function is simply to look at the plans that are before us regarding the houses and the plat. So I just want to make sure that we clarify that for those that might be viewing and unclear about that function. So for our function and the purpose of this board, really pleased with the project that's before us today.
Any other comments? Board Member Crockett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would agree with those comments. on this project. I appreciate the attention to detail. It appears to me that that this is a high-quality development and that the developer has listened and addressed issues proactively that have come along. I understand the concern about the park. I think there will be a public process along with that park, and issues like parking and what the park looks like. I think the public will have input in, but that's not before us today. That's not what we're addressing. With regard to the Red Mountain or the Red Rock Park, again, I understand the sensitivity regarding an amenity that was paid for by another developer for another group of homeowners, but I believe that whether there's an agreement there will depend upon the Red Mountain HOA, and if they believe that it's in the interest, if their homeowners are generally supportive of that, I assume that an agreement will be made, and if they're not supportive, I'm assuming that an agreement won't occur there, and that park will continue to be limited to the use of just the Red Mountain residents that live in that area. So again, I commend the developer for the thought and effort that went into this. I think that this will be a quality development. I think that it will be a benefit to that part of Northeast Mesa, and I guess those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I don't have nothing to add. I agree with all the comments that have been made so far. I guess the couple notes that I took was, I feel for the people that have bought in that area expecting a park, because that's what you do. You do your research, you find the park, and you buy your house next to that. So I totally sympathize with that. But I also know that twice it's gone to the bond election and twice the citizens have turned it down. And, you have to, I guess, it was the council that decided to put the property up for sale, and they're trying to think forward. They're trying to figure out, okay, we can't just let it sit here for another 10 years or 20 years or whatever. How can we make this work? And I appreciate the thoughts and efforts that Blandford has put into this project. I also appreciate that they're donating the property back to the city, so they'll have somewhat of a park on that north side of it. It is a tough one. It's a tough as far as for the people that live there, and I understand that, but I am supporting this project just based on the circumstances that it is right now.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I feel like I need to comment quickly, but only in agreement with my fellow board members. This project has been, again, carefully thought through. The details are here. I was so excited to see as many as we have here from the neighborhood to bring their thoughts and their feelings, because it helps us so much in the situation that we're in and trying to understand what everybody's thinking. It's always so great that people get involved and care. We want to make sure you don't believe that we don't care, because we do. We really like to know what you feel, and it does help us work through, and it also helps us better understand the actual concerns around there. And it helped very clearly today go through a number of my questions which relate to traffic and parking, and get some clarity that those things have been reviewed by professionals and are slated to function appropriately and work within this community. I love that there's park left over in numerous places, and I almost feel like the interworkings of this whole community is a park. I mean, there's so much space in there, so it's an exciting piece of development, and I appreciate the application.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's, it fits with what's going on in this area. I would prefer no palm trees, but doesn't really fit Red Mountain. But, something similar to this happened next to me in my neighborhood, and which is how I got involved on the public side and being on hearing officers and stuff like that. And the same thing of, a simple change of a general plan, and I really commend you guys for paying attention to that and noticing it and, getting involved. And that's how I got picked, because I kind of became a thorn in the city side for a little bit and made sure they knew I was not happy with what was going on with selling of properties and redoing stuff. So I really do encourage that you guys are here. And I think, Sean and the developer will work with you guys. Everything that they've presented to us before in the past has been really well received, and they're actually by my place too. So I was, I get nervous, but I think they're a good developer that'll do well by you guys in the future, so.
Well, I'll just end on just a zoning note that, the request to amend the general plan, it meets the requirements of our general plan, and the request to rezone, it's consistent with the neighborhood character. And the planned area development overlay, I mean, we see a lot of requests for those kinds of overlays to deviate from our zoning standards. And a lot of times it's hard for me to say, oh yeah, I can see that truly quality development or that unique design. But this is like a quintessential kind of example of what we expect in a PAD. I think this kind of sets the standard for me going forward with that preservation of open space and just how you looked at the land and just designed around that. They could have just put a whole bunch of linear lots, straight streets, boring, not caring about the landscape. So I appreciate that.
That's why I was hoping they could be just an approval without an approval with conditions. Because they just did it. They just did a good job on this one.
I haven't heard that one before. Mr. Boyle, yeah, that's good. All right, well, is there a motion? Would someone like to make a motion?
Okay.
Start with 6A, right?
Right. First of all, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ZON 19-00954, District 5, within the 5,600 to 6,000 block of East Thomas Road, and within the 3,600 to 4,000 blocks of North Recker Road, located north of Thomas, west of Recker Road, a minor general plan amendment to change the character type from parks to neighborhood, with the staff recommendation of approval with conditions.
Thank you. Yes, so that's the first motion is for the minor general plan amendment. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay, everyone please vote. Okay, so KZON 19-00954, the minor general plan amendment is approved. Is there a motion for the rezoning case?
Do you want me to go ahead?
Sure.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that one too. I would recommend that we approve ZON 19-00806, District 5, within the 5,600 to 6,000 blocks of East Thomas Road, within the 3,600 to 4,000 blocks of North Recker Road, located north of Thomas, west of Recker, rezoned from PS to RS6 PAD and RS7 PAD. This request allows for the development of a single resident subdivision, and that one also approval with conditions. And can I go ahead and do both of them at the same time? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And this board recommends approval for reserve at Red Rock, District 5, within the 5,600 to 6,000 blocks of East Thomas Road, and within the 3,600 to 4,000 blocks of North Recker Road, located north of Thomas Road and west of Recker Road, a preliminary plat, as well, approval with conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second? Do we have? Did you second? Okay, thanks. It didn't show up on our board. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and everyone please vote. Okay, the rezoning and the plat also pass unanimously. Mr. Apia, when is the city council going to hear these items so that the public can come and further voice their opinion?
So I'm going to confer with Evan, but I believe it's going to January 27th for introduction, or are we doing February 10th? With action on February 24th?
Madam Chair, I believe we are in the February timeframe for
So
that.
February 10th for introduction and February 24th for action.
So anybody who wants to go, you should go to the city council so that you can express your concerns to them.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I will also add that you look at the city council agenda as well, which is published every week. And if you have any questions, you can also contact staff as to the next stage of the process as well. So.
Thank you. Okay, well, is there a motion to adjourn? As I don't believe we have any more items on our agenda today.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second? Okay, everyone, please vote.
Aye.
Aye, I think we're all aye, okay. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.